Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this very special press announcement. I'm John Fink. I'm the Director of Communications and Public Affairs for San Francisco Opera. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you here. I believe you've all got press kits, and if you don't, please see one of our staff members. Lots of information is in there. And may I remind you that today's press conference is being taped. It will be then shown on the San Francisco Opera website starting at approximately 1 o'clock today. So if you would like to revisit today, you can see that starting at 1 o'clock Pacific time. May I introduce you to the speakers for some remarks? Following the remarks, we'll then take questions from the audience. Thank you. So here's Keith Gieslin, our president of the San Francisco Opera Association. Matthew Shilvock, our San Francisco Opera General Director Designate. John Gunn, chairman of the San Francisco Opera Board of Directors. And Stephen Menzies, chairman of the Search Committee. Keith?
Thank you very much, John. There it goes. And either my watch is slow or we're right on time. This is fabulous. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And on behalf of the San Francisco Opera Association, it's my privilege and great honor, as well as I am candidly, personally thrilled, to announce that the board has selected Matthew, who's been our Associate General Director since 2010, as San Francisco Opera's 7th General Director. Matthew will assume the position on August 1st, succeeding David Gockley, who will retire in July at the end of our current season. Now, shortly after David announced his intention to retire late last year, the board formed a search committee that solicited advice from numerous industry leaders and developed a detailed position specification before casting a very wide net, both nationally and internationally, in the search for our next general director. Through a lengthy and thorough process, Matthew emerged as the ideal candidate. He understands San Francisco Opera's complex operations, has strong artistic and management credentials, and is perfectly positioned to build on the great success that we've enjoyed during David's 10 years as general director. Our culture here at the Opera is, we like to think, forward-thinking, innovative, creative, and inclusive, and Matthew embodies all of those ideals. As for me, I've had the privilege of working closely with Matthew for several years, and I can tell you that he's a strategic thinker who's passionate about connecting audiences with the power and beauty of opera. He has a wonderful collaborative management style that's won the respect of everyone in our organization, from his peers on the senior team, to our union colleagues, to our community partners. And he has the absolute trust and confidence of the board. He'll provide strong continuity with our audience while finding new ways to reinforce the opera's role within our community. Fortunately, Matthew will take over a company, thanks to David, that's in great shape artistically and financially. Though, of course, this enterprise being opera, great shape financially is admittedly a somewhat relative term. Our 2014-15 season was the most critically acclaimed in many years, and as or more importantly, the audience loved it. We're off to a great start this year with a terrific lineup of productions and artists. We're getting wonderful community support with our annual fund contributions at an all-time high, and we're just a few months away from opening the Wilsey Center for Opera in the Veterans Building right next door, which will consolidate all of our operations for the first time, or for the first time in a very long time, on a single campus, and give us a second, more intimate venue in the Tad and Diane Toby Atrium Theater, which is a wonderful little performing space. So, all in all, exciting times for San Francisco Opera. And now, before I turn it over to John Gunn, who's going to share some of his perspective, I'd like to take just one more moment to thank the search committee, headed by board members Steve Menzies and Bob Ellis, both of whom are with us today, for their hard work, and to congratulate them on the thoughtful and thorough process that led to Matthew's appointment. Steve will share some details of the process with you shortly, but first, John.
Well, thanks, Keith. I'm thrilled that Matthew has accepted the board's invitation to become our next general director. I believe it was the right decision to select Matthew and promote from within our great company. I've watched him and worked with him, and I'm very impressed by his knowledge of not only opera, but also classical music, and also his keen understanding of the San Francisco Opera's immense operations. I will also add that he has a strong leadership quality that will basically be very important to us over the years ahead. So I couldn't be more proud of his great accomplishments and feel confident that with Matthew at the helm, San Francisco Opera will continue its pivotal role as one of the world's leading opera companies. Now, it's your.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the end. I don't have any more pages here.
Well,
I was going to try to do a 45-minute address, but I don't think I'll get it.
good morning. I'm Steve Menzies, and I, along with my co-chairman, Bob Ellis, led the search committee. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of our search process and provide you with some facts about it. The selection of Matthew Shilvock was a decision arrived at after a long and thorough process by a committee of 13 members, plus the current officers of the board, representing a broad cross-section of the opera's board and the opera's leadership. The committee deliberated in well-attended sessions. We started last year in October and concluded last month in August. The entire committee participated in the screening process at all steps along the way. The final decision was arrived at and vetted by the full committee. The committee began its work by analyzing the strategic vision of the company and then determining the requisite qualifications and qualities needed in the candidate. The committee additionally undertook an education effort to hear various points of view from important people around the opera world concerning the artistic perspective, industry trends, job requirements, and the status of the candidate talent pool. We began the screening process by identifying around 70 potentially qualified candidates worldwide, mainly in the US and in Europe. To be completely thorough, we additionally undertook an effort to look at the symphony and other performing arts world for potentially qualified candidates who ran major companies. Of the 70, we reviewed around 50 resumes, some solicited, some not, and screened to 17 basically qualified candidates, given their major leadership qualities. Of the 17, we then screened to 5, whom the committee intensely interviewed. We ended up with 3 finalists who were invited back to present their specific plans for San Francisco Opera. Each candidate in this group was highly qualified, and each presented detailed plans and sat through intense questioning before the committee. The committee met in its final committee meeting on August 20th for a detailed review of the finalists and voted to select Matthew. Now, Matthew is, of course, an inside candidate, but he was subjected to the same screening and vetting process as all the other candidates, and competing head-to-head, prevailed as the most qualified and best choice to be San Francisco Opera's next general director. Matthew has over 10 years of experience participating in the operational and artistic management and decision-making of a major opera company. Matthew also has solid working relationships with many singers, artists, directors, and creative teams. Throughout the search process, Matthew was confident and competent, and we believe Matthew is the right choice to lead the San Francisco Opera, and he has the overwhelming support and confidence of our board of directors.
Well, thank you for those amazing words. This is one of the most thrilling. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's before you've even said anything.
That's the easy bit. Well, thank you. This is really one of the most thrilling and humbling days of my life. I really cannot believe that I'm sitting here with you all today. When I joined this company 10 years ago, I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams that I would be appointed general director of this tremendous, great company and be in this capacity with you here in the first of, hopefully, many press conferences. I'm deeply grateful to Steve Menzies and Bob Ellis and the entire search committee, supported by the Catherine French Group, John Gunn, Keith Gieslin, and the entire board for this incredible opportunity to keep serving the company that I've come to love so deeply over the last decade. I couldn't be more excited to be with you here today, given the legacy of the 6 prior general directors who have led this company with such vision and passion over the last 93 years. These are some very big shoes, and it is inspiring to follow in their great footsteps and build on the strengths of the past as we look forward to a very exciting future. I'm very grateful to have so many members of the press here today, and I look forward to getting to know you all better in the coming months and years. I do want to take a moment to remember Robert Commande, one of the great champions of the arts in this city and a deeply thoughtful critic who shaped discourse on the arts in such a great way over so many decades. I didn't have the chance to know Bob that well, but he always impressed me with his wisdom and his commitment. We miss his presence, especially on days like today. I also want to thank the civic and cultural leaders who are here today. It means a great deal to me to have you with us. This is a city full of generous leaders, and I will definitely be knocking on your doors for wisdom and guidance as I chart this new path. My first experience in San Francisco Opera was in 2002 for the Messiaen Saint-François when I was sitting up in the grand tier as an audience member. I vividly remember looking up at that magnificent chandelier and being completely awestruck by the majesty of the building and the incredible quality of what was happening in front of me. Often now when I'm sitting in rehearsals, I'll look up at that chandelier again and be transported back to that very same moment in 2002 and feel that same sense of awe and excitement. However, after 10 years of being in this company, I have a much deeper understanding of what it makes this company so astonishing. It's not the marbled lobbies or the great chandelier. It's the incredible women and men who work here, our phenomenal artists, orchestra, chorus, dance corps, crew, staff, and volunteers, our family members in the Opera Guild, Merilla, and Bravo, and the board members, donors, and audiences who invest so completely in what we do. It's critical to me that we're a people-centric company, and I couldn't be more excited to have the chance to keep working with the talented professionals that make SFO such a bastion of great opera. I realize that I'm not someone that well known to many of you, and I wanted to give you a sense of my involvement in this art form. Over the last decade, I've been privileged to work with increasing responsibility on many aspects of this organization, being involved in over 100 productions and having the unique opportunity to work with and be mentored by one of the greatest impresarios of this business. I have a very robust understanding of all the moving parts needed to produce the highest quality opera on an international stage. I've developed lasting and strong relationships with many of the artists, creative teams, and managers over the last decade, and I'm very fortunate to have the most exceptional colleagues here. It's a team that knows and respects this company from top to bottom. I'm very excited at the prospect of working with this team to forge great seasons of quality, excitement, and creativity in the years ahead. My success will come from working collaboratively across the entire company by listening deeply and learning from each experience. I believe that opera is the most powerful art form ever created. It explores the fundamental themes of who we are as human beings. Opera illuminates our most archetypal emotions and invites us to explore who we are and how we fit into the world. Opera is the great storytelling art, and those who work for this company are the storytellers, shaping the narratives of our existence in unique, authentic moments of live theater. There is no more authentic storyteller than our own music director, Nicola Luisotti. Nicola brings heart, energy, and passion to even the most well-known operas, with his probing insight energizing every work he conducts. He radiates optimism and a complete love of music, teaching us to live life in the moment. I am thrilled to continue working with Nicola and with our superb artistic music and production teams, finding ever more compelling ways to bring together great stories on this great stage. I wanted to take a moment to recognize some people without whom I would not be here today. First, my parents, who are watching in Worcestershire, England. From my very early years, they fostered and encouraged a love of the arts. The life lessons they gave me, patience, respect, sincerity, and honesty, guide me each and every day. Quite simply, I would not be here were it not for my mentor, friend, counsel, and guide, David Gockley. I have been deeply blessed to have worked for David for over 13 years. And at every juncture, he has flung wide the gates of opportunity and possibility. What David has done, not only for me, but for this company and this art form, can never be underestimated. His legacy is one of the greatest of any impresario in 400 years of opera. I will do everything I can to honor him through my work here, reflecting the passion, adventure, and integrity that he has always brought to his work. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Mark Skorka, president of Opera America, who 15 years ago took a chance on a foreign participant in the then fellowship program of Opera America. This program opened up so many doors for me and changed my entire trajectory. Mark's wisdom, guidance, and friendship over all these years has been invaluable. Thank you, Mark. And most importantly, I want to recognize my beautiful and incredible wife, Kate, who is here today. I met Kate when she worked for the opera's development department. I owe a great deal to this company. Kate has by far the most important role in our family. She is the mother of our 2 young children, Colin and Eleanor. Her vivaciousness, wit, intellect, and loving support shine a great life into my life. She is my rock, my inspiration, and my better self, and I couldn't do any of this without her. It's too early to be sharing artistic plans or detailed strategies. This appointment is hot off the press, after all. But I wanted to give you a sense of the key areas that I believe will be imperative in the coming years. Strengthening the company's image such that audiences are inspired to attend irrespective of the particular work on stage. We need to be a comfortable, trusted place to experience the known and the new. Developing long-term partnerships with artists and creative teams that allow us to produce operas that work inherently for this unique stage. Building even stronger relationships with our colleague arts companies in this city to create a spectacular arts district, easy to get to, welcoming to everyone, and a jewel of the Bay Area. Furthering a workplace culture where all employees can be creative with ideas and on the cutting edge of possibility, whatever their role in the company. Reimagining what opera can be through the opening of the Diane B. Wilsey Center for Opera next door. Adding incredible diversity and adventure into the programming of the main house here. To be launching this space in 2016 is an amazing new chapter for the opera, and one for which David deserves huge accolades for having the vision and tenacity to bring it into reality. As we approach our centennial in 2022, we need to explore fundamental questions about our place in our community, locally, nationally, and internationally. I'm particularly excited to explore strategic connections with the Pacific Rim, one of the fastest growing opera markets in the world. And underpinning all of this, finding a financial model that allows us an inherent stability from which we can then take risks, be our most creative, and then bring engaging work to life on our stage. This is not a business that's got easier over the decades, but what we do is timeless, unique, and very universal. We can transport people to emotional extremes in the course of a single night. We can provide shared communities where the most intimate stories are explored. Benjamin Britten called this transcendental quality of music magic, and that word resonates powerfully with me. What we do is magical, and I believe that what we do is as impactful now as it ever has been. There is so much that gives me hope about the future of that art form, but I wanted to share with you one story that gives me particular hope about what we can accomplish. In May, I visited Sunnyside Elementary School here in San Francisco for our education program's mini operas. These were 5 short presentations that were the culmination of a year of learning and immersion in opera by children in grades 2 to 5. What amazed me was how powerfully these children were using operas to tell stories of their lives and their communities. Of the 5 pieces, 2 were about homeless issues in San Francisco, and 1 was about the challenges of working in the tech sector in a Christmas Carol-like piece of self-discovery. Here were young children combining all the elements of opera: voice, music, drama, visual arts, and narrative, and weaving them into powerful stories about their own life experiences. We have a great opportunity and a great responsibility at San Francisco Opera to do just that, using the immense talents that we have. All of the stories that we tell on this stage are ultimately about who we are as humans and how we connect with each other. If we can continue to connect audiences with stories that reflect their own narratives and transform their own lives, we have a very exciting future ahead. I couldn't be more honored and proud to assume this role and work with this incredible company to chart a vibrant, creative pathway into the future. Thank you.
On Matthew's behalf, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And we do have time for questions if there are other things that we haven't covered in our brief remarks that anyone would like to discuss.
Any questions, please? Quiet group. Joshua Cosman, San Francisco Chronicle.
Matthew, I know it's early yet, but I'm wondering if you could say anything about the kinds of new works that might come out of your general directorship, if commissions or plans that, going forward, what are your priorities in that area?
That's a great question, Josh. This company has a tremendous legacy in creating new work, most acutely in David's tenure, which has been exceptional, but also before that as well. And I think that the creation of new work is the pinnacle of how a company can express its creative vision. And so I very much look forward to continuing that. We have a couple of premieres coming up that David has instigated and will happen in the coming seasons, and I have some great ideas about how we can keep going in the future. I'm also very excited about what the opening of the Wilsey Center next door means for this. It'll give us a great additional space to be even more experimental in our thinking in a way that we never could be in a 3,200-seat house. So I'm very excited about the interplay of contemporary music between both this stage and the War Memorial as we go forward.
Bill Burnett.
In the history of San Francisco Opera, there's been only one time in which an inside candidate has taken over the reins, and that's Kurt Herbert Adler. And there's never been a time where an internal candidate has worked with the general director on a transition. So this has the opportunity to be the most successful transition in the history of San Francisco Opera. I wonder if you would comment on that observation.
Well, there are a few other notable examples in our business, one of whom is sitting behind you, in Mr. Joe Volpe from the Metropolitan Opera, and a couple of examples in Chicago as well. And, I could not be more thrilled to have worked with David and have the relationship we have over the last 13 years. And his generosity involving me in every aspect of what we do is just unparalleled. I will never be able to acknowledge adequately what that has meant to me. And I think as we go into this transition, that gives both of us a great foundation for honesty and openness and excitement as we chart this new path in a way that reflects the need of the company to put on this wonderful 2015-16 season. It's a big season. We have the opening of the Wilsey Center, and it's important for both David and I that we make sure that the company has the resources, energy, and focus it needs to do that. But I think we're uniquely positioned to do that. As you say, this is a great opportunity, and I look forward to embracing it in the next 9-10 months ahead.
Thank you, Bill. Sean Martinfield.
I have a question about the questions. And it's for Stephen and Matthew. Given the inside track and working knowledge of how the company works, and with the view in mind of the past 10 years under David Gockley, there must have been a question or two that separated you absolutely from everybody else, and maybe raised a hand in the contenders as a viable possibility as well. Can you share with us one of those challenging questions that kind of separated you from the crowd?
Steve, do you want me to take that, or do you want to?
Go ahead, why don't you start?
Time to relive the interview. I think, actually, going back to almost the prior question on the opportunities and challenges of being an internal candidate. I mean, it's one is blessed to have the knowledge that one has of after 10 years of working in a company. You know, one also knows the intricate realities of how the company works, and I think, you know, I'll defer to Steve on this, but I think it was important to me to think about, you know, how you can combine those two things, how you can leverage the great knowledge that you have of a company, but also not be shackled by the realities of it and dream and envision beyond that. So I think that was something I know we talked about in the interview process, and something that I will be looking forward to accomplishing in the coming tenure.
I would add that from the beginning, Matthew was an obvious candidate, given his qualifications. Matthew's done a great job as Associate General Director, and Matthews is on everyone's recruiting list. As I said in my opening remarks, he did go through the same screening and vetting process as all the other candidates, and competing on equal footing, came out far and away as the best candidate. I think what I would say about it in the end is, I think we're really proud that David Gockley has enabled a successor to come up through San Francisco Opera. I think that really is a mark of good leadership on David's part.
Another question, please. Yes, Lisa Hirsch.
Congratulations, Matthew.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good to have someone with strong business knowledge and everything like that, involvement in labor relations, continuing in the position of General Director.
Thank you.
So the Royal Opera House commissioned the Minotaur from Harrison Birtwistle and did well enough with it to revive it. As far as I can tell, no Birtwistle opera has ever been performed in the U.S. Would you consider making San Francisco Opera the first company to stage a Birtwistle opera?
I will be considering, along with my great team here, all good ideas in the coming year. And I take that one under well advisement. Thank you.
Was there a part 2 to that, Lisa? Anna Nicole?
There's a suggestion box at the back.
Joshua Cosman, please.
Actually, yeah. I mean, a follow-up, somewhat, a little bit. If you could just speak to 2 or 3 of the most interesting or most successful contemporary works that you've seen elsewhere or here in the last few years, just to sort of give us a sense of what tickles your fancy artistically.
Well, I mean, there's such a broad spectrum of activity that's happening now in the world of new opera, and it's hard to pick favorites out of that. You know, I will say that I thought Moby Dick was incredible on this stage. I think it was a great piece of theater and a great piece of music, and was thrilled that we were able to put that out on a DVD. I loved seeing Satyagraha at the Met, and you know, seeing the propulsive quality of that music was really exceptional, and a great marriage on the stage. Susanna was wonderful to bring here as well, and to see, you know, how we can bring works that aren't brand new, but also within the last 50 years. And I think that is, you know, to Lisa's question as well, important in that we don't ignore the chance to bring back new works. It's not always the question about the first play. The second play is also very important. So, you know, I look forward to delving into a lot of different styles, working to see what will resonate with the company best here and the audience best here. And again, to our earlier point, kind of looking to see what even more experimental work can happen next door as well.
Another question, please. quiet group. Yes, Susan McConkey.
Matthew, what do you see as the most important things that, in your perspective, from the new Wellesley Centre Theatre? What do you see there as the future ideas?
I think it will give us the chance to do something that is very hard in a theatre of this size, and that is have an intimate relationship with our audience. The installation of the opera vision screens in the balcony were a great step towards that in this theatre, but to have a space in which the artists are mere feet away from the audience is an exciting intensity that is very different and a very different way to experience art. You know, what the symphony has done in the Soundbox space is a great example of that. I remember on the opening night of the Soundbox, 5 percussion players playing wood blocks. That kind of thing could never happen on a big main stage, but to have that sense of involvement with the art is something that I think will be very transformational in what we do.
Yes, please.
Janos.
Janos.
When David Gockley arrived, he included, I think in his first press conference, representatives of the city's art institutions, so ACT, et cetera. And I thought that was a very good thing, except in the long run, it kind of petered out. I'm sure there are still personal relationships, but no active collaboration and so on. Is there anything in that area that you are interested in?
Absolutely. Again, I'm thrilled to have some of our colleagues here from our companies across the streets and down the blocks. And this is a wonderful collection of arts organizations. And I look forward to artistic discussions together. But I think most imperatively, we need to look together at this issue of how the Civic Center in Hayes Valley becomes the most optimized arts district it can be. We have the most phenomenal companies here. We have phenomenal restaurants. We have all the elements of a great arts district, but it's difficult to get here. The traffic can be bad. The parking can be difficult. There's a sense that it's not always the safest place once a performance finishes. These are things that we have to work together. We can't work alone on these. We have to work together to push forward such that this really is one of the most active and engaging arts districts in the country. And I'm very excited to do that with my colleagues.
Bill Burnett.
We all are very interested in your support for new works and for such as we've had this last month, the wonderful Lee Blakely production of Sondheim's Sweeney Todd, bringing a new type of sound into the War Memorial. However, I think also the Louisa Miller is indicative of another part of the repertory that has been neglected by many opera houses that concentrate on what I regard as the 9 safe operas, 3 by Puccini, 3 by Mozart, and 1 by Rossini, Bizet. What I was interested in is whether you have an interest in exploring the French repertory, the Baroque repertory, the traditional romantic repertory beyond the familiar works, and the repertory that seems to have dropped off of the earth, which is the Verismo repertory other than Puccini. I know we have rumors of at least one coming up, but I wanted to see what you respond to the old repertory.
Well, one of the things that impresses me about this company is the incredible talent that we have gives us the opportunity to do pretty much anything. And that is a wonderful and daunting position to be in when you look at season planning. We are not bound by the constraints of what we can't do. It's simply a matter of what we can do and how it best fits together. And, I think we have a responsibility as one of the great opera companies of the world to be engaged in as diverse repertoire as we can be, particularly here where we're programming so tightly in the fall and the spring. It's incumbent on us to give the audience as wonderful a spread of offerings as possible. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is working with Maestro Luisotti and our artistic and production teams and really charting out what operas come together best and give the very, very finest collective sense of the repertoire. I have a personal love for the Baroque repertoire, and I think that what we've seen on this stage with Partenope and Xerxes and Ariodante, and before that Iphigenie, although a little later in the repertoire, is very indicative of how powerfully these works resonate with audiences. I mean, these works are about emotions, the Baroque works. And again, I think that for me is the thing that really sets us apart from any other art form. So I look forward to a lot of exciting Baroque work, and then from there forward, and really charting a course through the entire history of opera. So it's an embarrassing and wonderful array of riches that we have to choose from. So I look forward to delving in deep.
Another question, please. Yes, Lisa Hirsch.
Speaking of presenting a wider repertoire, have you considered concert opera as an economically efficient means of presenting works that might not sell out or do well over 8 performances, but maybe with a shorter rehearsal period, you could do 3 performances of?
That's a great question. It's something that I think the company has done in its history, maybe not its recent history, and it has been, I know, a way to get those more esoteric works onto the stage and in front of the audience. I think we have to be careful that, in doing that, are we removing expectations from what the audience believes they're going to see on the War Memorial stage, and can we still create a very compelling presentation without those other critical elements of what we do? But I think it's a very important thing for us to consider as we look at the scope of the repertory.
Anyone else? Stephen Smolier?
Since you asked.
You usually ask a question, which is why I went right to you.
Oh, here, thank you. So one of the interesting things about Sweeney Todd was the use of technology to deal with a libretto that was, call it, semantically compact, to make sure that the audience got all of those rhymed couplets and all of the sophistication. Do you envisage sort of a greater partnership between technology that can enhance rather than just expand as part of the production circumstances?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the production. I think in Sweeney Todd we had a wonderful opportunity to marry technology with what we traditionally do on the theater to really make this work sparkle and shine for the audience. As you say, this is a very, very tightly constructed libretto, and you do not want the audience to miss a second of it. That's an integral part of the work. So I think whether it's through the use of amplification or super titles in that regard, making sure that the audience has the most engaged experience they can is the fundamental objective of what we do. And I think we need to use the resources that we have to get to that point. And in Sweeney Todd, that was those technological resources.
Cheryl North? Sue Gilmore? Bill Burnett, you look like you're ready for another one. It's been 2 minutes. I mean that fondly, as you know.
I have many thoughts from first of all, I would like to suggest that a compromise between the concert, I saw Lucide here and have seen operas presented in concert form here. I don't think it's a good use of a tight schedule in the War Memorial's calendar. However, I have seen in places such as Seattle and their current Nabucco, where the use of projections and a sound wall, rather like Louisa Miller's Yergin production, although it wasn't done for projections, that you could have a less expensive production, still staged and costumed and in a way that the audience would relate to, but still be able to get the Verdi's I Masnadieri and several other things that you may not want to invest in a full-scale production. That said, I do want to support the very large, expensive productions of Lee Blakely's Sondheim that he's doing at Châtelet. There's 3 others by Sondheim and much more of these spectacular productions from Zambello, Blakely, and others that really do belong in this opera house and would bring in new audiences to experience live performance of musical theater in the War Memorial.
You know, I think we have a great opportunity to leverage this stage to the very best and most impactful way. We have to find works that work and fit this stage like a glove, that will give us the ability to then do works that may be a little larger in scope. And I think finding the interplay of those two things is absolutely critical. We have one of the finest production and technical teams who know this stage inside out. And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at in the coming years, is how we use that stage to that kind of smart effect.
I think that we have time for one more question and then we'll adjourn. Yes, Stephen.
I'll do a follow-up to that, because I think that one of the great advances in American musical theater over the last 30 years or so has been in the direction of what we would now call chamber opera. So that between what can happen here and what can happen at the Wilsey Center, there should be a large number of opportunities to find the right scale of size for the theater work. Which is why I want to put in a vote for Pacific Overtures.
Duly taken.
We'll let you know when we're going to announce the Sondheim Festival in short order. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Sorry, Cheryl, you did have a question? Yes. Okay, please. Cheryl North.
I was going to ask what your plans might be, if anything innovative or carrying on what we already have of Marilla and the Adler programs.
The young artist training programs of this company are amongst the very finest, if not the finest in the world. And it's been a great privilege for me to be involved with them in the last years and to see the kinds of talents and nurturing and development that has happened within those programs, and then how Greg Henkel, our Director of Artistic Planning, has taken those singers and woven them into the fabric of the company. And I think they are a jewel of what we do. They are integral to the vibrant energy of San Francisco Opera, and I look forward to championing them in equal and greater measure moving forward.
Okay. Oh, yes. Phil Campbell.
Sure, it's an interesting point because we have such a rich talent pool locally. But how do you feel about recruiting international stars? And going forward, if there are going to be any mountings of productions centered around perhaps a particular singer?
Well, it's as with everything in this business, balance is key, and finding the interplay of local singers who are nurtured and known by the audiences here, and then finding the great, exciting talents from abroad and from elsewhere in America. That is the energy that keeps this company propelled forward, and I believe we do a phenomenal job of that already. We will keep being in Europe, being in America, finding those relationships, and talking with those key stars about the projects that will excite them to be part of this great company.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. More coffee, and we'll see you out there. Gentlemen.